Ladies and gentlemen, hold on to your hats because what's happening right now between the Dallas Cowboys and the Cincinnati Bengals is absolutely unreal. We've been hearing rumors for months. We've been watching little hints pop up on social media, and now it's all coming to a head. The negotiations between the Cowboys and Bengals regarding star pass rusher Trey Hendrickson have officially exploded. And this time, it's for real. Trey Hendrickson, one of the most dominant defensive forces in the NFL today, could be heading to America's team, the Dallas Cowboys. And this move would shake the league from top to bottom. I mean, imagine it. Micah Parsons on one edge and Trey Hendrickson on the other, wreaking havoc on quarterbacks every single Sunday. That's not just a defense, that's a nightmare for every offensive coordinator in the league. And the craziest part, even Jerry Jones himself, the man who loves surprises, might not have expected how fast this firestorm would spread. So sit back, smash that like button, and let's dive into everything that's going down in this wild, breaking saga. Because the story behind this move is way bigger than just a trade rumor. It's a statement about how far Dallas is willing to go to win now, and how quickly Cincinnati's locker room has turned into a powder keg ready to blow. Everything starts with Trey Hendrickson's incredible rise. Remember, this guy wasn't always a household name. Drafted by the New Orleans Saints, he had to fight for snaps early in his career, but he worked, developed, and by the time he hit free agency, he was one of the most coveted edge rushers on the market. The Bengals gave him a big contract and bet on his ability to change games. And boy, did that bet pay off. Over the past few seasons, Hendrickson became the engine of Cincinnati's pass rush, the tone setter, the emotional spark. Every time the Bengals defense needed a play, he was there tearing through offensive lines, forcing fumbles, getting to the quarterback. But here's the twist. Dominance like that comes with a price, and Hendrickson felt he wasn't getting paid what he deserved. He looked around the league and saw other pass rushers with less production getting bigger contracts. He saw new deals inflating the market. He saw himself entering his prime and knew that if he didn't act now, he might never get the long-term security he wanted. So what did he do? He made a move most players dread. He told the Bengals front office it was time to talk. And if they weren't willing to meet his number, they needed to find him a new home. At first, the Bengals brushed it off, saying they'd to handle it after the draft. But that delay became frustration. Communication broke down. The front office stopped returning calls, and the tension began leaking out into the media. Reports emerged that Hendrickson felt ignored, that the relationship had cooled, and that the Bengals were quietly exploring trade options behind the scenes. That's when the storm started brewing. Now, on the other side of the league, down in Texas, the Dallas Cowboys were having their own internal conversations. Jerry Jones and his front office crew have never been shy about making splashy moves. They live for headlines, they love star power, and they know exactly how to turn football into spectacle. The Cowboys had already built one of the best defensive units in the NFC, anchored by the freakishly talented Micah Parsons. But anyone watching closely could see that Dallas was missing one crucial element: a consistent, high-impact partner on the opposite side of Parsons who could collapse pockets and create chaos. They had rotational guys, yes. They had effort and energy, but they didn't have that guy, the one who forces offensive coordinators to double team on every down. And when Hendrickson's name hit the rumor mill, you could practically feel the gears start turning in Jerry Jones's mind. Could they pull this off? Could they bring in a player of Hendrickson's caliber without blowing up the salary cap? Could they convince the Bengals to part ways with a star they didn't want to pay? Dallas smelled opportunity, and that's where the fire really caught on. Behind the scenes, conversations reportedly began quietly. The Cowboys front office wanted to test the water, see how serious Cincinnati was about moving their Pro Bowl defensive end. What they found surprised them. The Bengals weren't just listening, they were frustrated too. And they knew Hendrickson wanted a bigger deal, but they weren't ready to commit that kind of money with other extensions looming. The Bengals were in a tough spot. They didn't want to lose him for nothing, but they also didn't want to set a precedent that every star could force a renegotiation mid-contract. So when the Cowboys came calling, Cincinnati didn't hang up. They asked questions, they talked numbers, and from that point, everything started moving fast. The moment this leak hit the NFL insider circles, phones started lighting up, Twitter, or X, went crazy, and sports talk shows began speculating on what a Cowboys-Bengals deal could even look like. Could Dallas give up a second-round pick and a player? Could they restructure Hendrickson's contract immediately to fit under the cap? Could this happen before the midseason trade deadline? Suddenly, what seemed like a wild fantasy was being discussed as a legitimate possibility. The Cowboys were no longer on the outside looking in. They were sitting at the negotiating table, and Jerry Jones was back in his element. And here's where it gets even more interesting. If this deal actually happens, the implications are massive for both teams. Let's start with Dallas. This move would instantly elevate their defense to another stratosphere. Imagine lining up Hendrickson opposite Parsons, two pass rushers who can beat double teams, bend around tackles, and close in on quarterbacks like heat-seeking missiles. Quarterbacks like Jalen Hurts, Brock Purdy, and even Patrick Mahomes would have nightmares preparing for that matchup. And the Cowboys' secondary, already strong with Trayvon Diggs and Darren Bland, would benefit hugely from the extra pressure. Opponents wouldn't have time to let deep routes develop, which means more interceptions, more turnovers, more chaos. Defensive coordinator Mike Zimmer, yes, the same Zimmer who loves aggressive fronts, would have a field day designing blitz packages around those two monsters. The Cowboys would go from pretty good to borderline unstoppable defensively overnight. Offensively, they'd get breathing room too, fewer shootouts, more control, more chances for Dak Prescott and CeeDee Lamb to manage games without feeling the need to score 35 every Sunday. From a psychological standpoint, that's enormous. Now flip it to Cincinnati's side. Losing Hendrickson would hurt, no question. He's not just a stats guy. He's an energy guy, a locker room presence, a tone setter. The defense feeds off his intensity, but if the relationship is fractured beyond repair, keeping him could be even more damaging. It's never good when your best player feels disrespected or disconnected from the organization. That can ripple through the entire roster. By trading him now, the Bengals could at least recoup value. Maybe a top 50 draft pick, maybe a young defensive lineman in return, and start building for the future. They could use those assets to strengthen other areas or finally lock in long-term deals for guys like Jamar Chase or T. Higgins. It's painful, but sometimes franchises have to make those cold, hard decisions for the long game. And you know how it goes. The Bengals front office prides itself on discipline and cap control. They'd rather move a guy a year too early than a year too late. Still, fans in Cincinnati would feel the sting because Hendrickson has been one of the faces of their defense during this era. Seeing him in a Cowboys uniform, those iconic blue and silver colors, would hit hard. Fans, media, and players alike are buzzing. Social media has exploded with speculation. Some say it's already a done deal behind closed doors. Others think it's just leverage play from Hendrickson's agent to force the Bengals' hand. But regardless of how it shakes out, the fact that we're even talking about this shows how fast the NFL landscape can change. So as we wrap this up, here's the bottom line. The Cowboys are in aggressive mode, the Bengals are frustrated, and Trey Hendrickson's future is at a crossroads. Negotiations are heating up faster than anyone expected, and what started as quiet whispers is now a full-blown explosion of trade speculation. This isn't smoke anymore. This is fire. If the Cowboys pull it off, they might just assemble one of the most dangerous defenses the NFL has seen in years. If they don't, they'll still have sent a clear message. They're not sitting still, and they're not afraid to take swings. For the Bengals, it's decision time. keep their star and risk locker room tension, or make a move that reshapes their roster for the next era. For Trey Hendrickson, it's about legacy, respect, and getting the deal he feels he's earned. For fans like us, it's about excitement, speculation, and watching one of the most fascinating storylines of the 2025 season unfold right before our eyes. So, what do you think? Is this trade about to happen? Would you give up a second round pick and a starter for Hendrickson? Do you think Jerry Jones will pull another classic surprise and shock the league again? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the update when the news officially drops, and stay tuned because this story is far from over. The Cowboys are moving, the Bengals are burning, and the NFL world is watching. This is going to get wild.